just coming in this morning to meet one of the gentlemen that is going to be coming forward at this time. DuPont Pioneer is our sponsor of this particular session, and Jerry Harrington is here from DuPont. Jerry shared with me a very exciting thing that I'd like to have him come forward. And not only is he sponsoring this session, but he's also working in some other areas that I think you're going to find very, very fascinating. Jerry?
Thank you very much. First off, I want to give a thank you to NAFB for setting up Trade Talk yesterday. I always tell everyone that asks me about Trade Talk, and I call it the most important, most successful communications day of the year, at least for me in public relations, because this is really an opportune time to communicate to a broad array of our customers, and we really appreciate it. We did over 100 interviews yesterday with our 4 sources. And so that's a lot of customers we talk to, a lot of farmers we talk to, and we sincerely appreciate it. We want to thank you again for the opportunity to allow us to sponsor this professional improvement session. And in sync with that, and in conjunction with that, we have also, will be announcing next week that the DuPont Pioneer will be initiating the DuPont Pioneer NAFB Foundation Internship Grant Program. That's a lot of words to say that we're contributing money to help set up 10 internships among NAFB members for this next summer or this next year. So we're kind of proud to do that, because that's one way to help young people enter agriculture and help them enter agriculture through farm broadcasting. As many of you know, there aren't a lot of real scholastic or academic training programs for farm broadcasting, and this is one way to help a lot of kids get into the profession. So thank you again for Trade Talk, for the chance to sponsor this professional improvement session, and for the whole conference. Thank you much.
Back to the theme of this session, it's been a passion of mine over the years, and in fact I was at a seminar some time back when we were given the opportunity to meet the folks on your right, on your left, across the table and so on and so forth, and somebody said, "What is it that you do?" And I don't know where it came from, but out of my heart the reply was, "I mentor and train young people." And frankly, Jerry, I couldn't tell you how much I appreciate it. It's something that is a passion of mine, and I know the rest of you in the room know full well that without bringing up young people, our future is really dim. So thank you again for that. This morning we're very excited to have Ryan Dohrn here. Ryan is with Brian Swell Media, and today he's going to be working on a subject that, again, is quite near and dear in my heart, and that's bringing up and training old dogs with new sales tricks so far as radio is concerned. And again, if we aren't looking for new ways to do things, I think we're slipping backwards. Ryan, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Wow, 8 o'clock Friday. You guys had a good week? Yeah? Good. Well, this is the size of group that I really enjoy. There's a couple reasons that I enjoy this size of group. First of all, right out of college, my first job was I was a broadcast major. My first job was at WKBF AM radio in Rock Island, Illinois. And my first mentor in the broadcasting business was a gentleman named Max Mollison. And the story I can tell you that is one of my favorites is that I finished my very first newscast ever. I knew that my grandmother, all my aunts and uncles, I'm the oldest of 26 grandkids from a farm family in Iowa, and they all were listening to the very first broadcast. And I finished my first bit of news, and I was thrilled. It was splendid. I mean, I rehearsed that joker in the bathroom easily 35 times, and I got done, and I said, "Yes, man, it was great. I'm so glad everybody was listening." And Max quietly came through the door and pushed me off. And he said, "It really was good." And yes, everybody was listening. Well, I have started in the broadcast business, moved to television in 1996. The internet began to really come on the landscape as I was working for ABC TV in Chicago and WLSAM radio in Chicago, which still continues to be a powerhouse, in Chicago. And so I'm thrilled to be able to share some really cool experiences as I continue today to work with media companies large and small. Groups like this are excellent, not only because of my background as a farm kid and as a preacher's son, but also because sales is near and dear to my heart because I sell each and every day, just like so many of you. One of the things I hate more than anything is going to a professional improvement seminar and listening to someone talk that's done nothing but sell themselves for the last 10 years, especially when we're trying to navigate a landscape now that's more cluttered than ever before. Would you agree with me on that? More cluttered than ever before. Let me give you a couple of examples, and then we're going to roll forward as we work together today. But let me not forget my roots. Though let me explain to you where I hail from today. I'll be in Iowa in 3 weeks to visit my folks, but I right now live on the border of Georgia and South Carolina, on the Savannah, near the Savannah River, in a little town called Beach Island, South Carolina. Sounds kind of nice. There's no beach. It's not an island. I don't even know where the name came from, to be honest. But we live just 7 miles from Augusta, Georgia, and I spend 20 days a month on the road. I'm a platinum member of this fine airline. That's a joke, people. I know it's early. Anybody recognize this picture? The Augusta National. Yeah, so I am signing up customers at the end. I take all customers to the... I'm just kidding. I actually can't. But we do have this beautiful golf course a few miles from my home, just 7 miles. My wife is in the equine reproduction business. Everybody in this room actually knows what that is, right? Okay, that's interesting because a lot of times I have to explain that my wife ships horse semen all over the country. That's the moment when the entire room goes, ooh. And I then have to explain to them further if they don't get it. It's kind of a messy business. But I married a farm girl from Iowa, and we continue in South Carolina to raise quarter horses and dogs on 40 acres. I just returned from a conference that was in Los Angeles, and they said, "Look, what do you like most about living in South Carolina?" And I said, "Well, the one thing I like most is I have 40 acres, and my property tax is $1,400." And they immediately laughed because, as you know, in California, there's nothing that you can buy for $1,400. That's for sure. Anybody recognize this image here? Come on, yeah. Somebody admit that they know that's Pong. Anybody remember playing Pong at all? Okay, that's Pong. Yep. Okay, how about this? Anybody recognize that? Asteroids. Asteroids. Very good. If I had a star, I'd give you one. That's asteroids. How about this? Oh, now we're pushing the envelope for some of you, aren't we? Yeah, how many people have kids that are somewhere 13 years or older, somewhere around there? Yeah, that'd be Call of Duty. So we went from having one little controller with one joystick and one fire button to a controller that has 19 or 20 buttons on it. And when my kid says, "Well, can you play video games with me?" It's not that I don't want to, it's just that I can't. Well, the reason that I'm explaining this to you is because of things like this. Have you seen this billboard? You've not seen that billboard in your town? No? Pretty clever though, huh? How about this one? Have you seen that? That's actually just 3D. Anybody get the opportunity to be to New York City and see this? Here's the point I want to help you understand as we walk through sales today. We live in a world that requires, much to my chagrin and to many people's chagrins, we live in a world today that requires more stimulation than ever before to make a decision. We're bombarded by marketing messages, hundreds if not thousands, every day. Do you agree? Okay? So, why would we expect advertisers to be any different? I think all of you would agree on the onset here, I'm a relationship guy. I'm not one of those people, someone said, "Ryan, are you a hunter or are you a farmer when it comes to sales?" And I said, well, I do understand and appreciate relationships, so I guess I would say that I'm a hunter with farmer instincts or a farmer with hunter instincts. But I don't think in the radio and TV space we can say, well, we're just farmers. Because what's it take to be a farmer? You plant a seed, pray a little bit, cultivate, pray a little bit more, and then maybe hopefully bring in a harvest, right? Well, what does a hunter do? A hunter goes out, sets up in a stand, puts his sights on the game, and kills it. Well, that'd be great, but I think all of us would agree that relationships trump almost anything in the sales business. Would you agree with me on that? So what I think that we have to talk about today is making sure that we accurately understand what are we going to do to be a lot more competitive in the space that we operate. And that's the premise of how to teach an old sales dog new tricks. And I'm not trying to call anybody old per se today. What I want you to know is that I recognize that some people in this room have some very, very specific challenges. So point number one that I'd love for you to make a note of. In dealing with advertisers in a cluttered media space, we have to overstimulate the advertiser if we want to be successful. So what does that mean? It used to mean that the phone was the only way that we communicate with them. Does anybody remember the days when someone would actually call you to place an ad? You don't remember that? I remember that. I remember when there was basically two medias in our market. Well, newspapers, radio, and television, and that was about the only choice. Well, now we're bombarded with 45 to 75 different media choices in most major markets, and in bigger markets, over 100. So you've got 19 or 20 cable channels in the greater Chicagoland area, just as an example. Even in rural America, what's the penetration of Dish and DirecTV in rural America, those two combined? Yeah, over 80%. I mean, over 80%. What about farmers that are connected, meaning that they have better than high-speed access? Farmers today, surveyed by RFD TV in one of the last surveys that I saw from them, how many farmers are actually connected higher than dial-up access? Do you remember dial-up access? Remember that? Okay. How many farmers, this is a big misnomer, how many farmers are better than connected? Over 70%. Over 70% of farmers today are connected with better than dial-up access. I just recently was on a really cool project called Farm Rescue, where we went to Ulen, Minnesota, and there was a gentleman whose wife was dying of cancer, and Farm Rescue came in, and then we went and we helped harvest the grain and soybeans for this particular farm. One of the things that I found very interesting is that as I rode in this brand new RDO combine, that the gentleman was talking to me and wasn't driving. And it's been a while since I sat in the combine. But there was one thing. I said, what happens when you get to the end row? And he said, just wait. We got to the end row, and that thing started chirping, and then it just started screaming at him. And I said, well, you can't fall asleep. I remember being with my dad in the combine falling asleep. We took out 2 fences before that joker got stopped. Technology today driven by GPS satellites. All of our advertisers are more connected than ever before. We have to remember, whether it's voicemail, whether it's email, whether it's sending postcards in the mail, if we want to be competitive in the radio space and the ad sales space, we have to overstimulate advertisers if we want to be successful. So what does that mean? Better patterns. Better patterns as you're calling on people, giving them better information, and reaching out to them in a more frequent way. So maybe instead of once a week, it's twice a week. Maybe it's a voicemail. Maybe it's an email, back-to-back 3 or 4 times a week. But unfortunately, we just live in a world where we're going to have to overstimulate. And I'm going to share some very specific examples. Second is, if we want to do something different, we need some type of plan to change how it is that we're selling today. Any plan is going to be better than no plan at all. Let me give you an example, speaking of golf from Augusta, Georgia. Would you agree with me that if Tiger Woods, despite all his personal issues, if Tiger Woods just went out with a putter and just walked up on a course and just swung his club 60 times, would he probably play better golf than most of us? A lot of you that know, yes, of course he would. Yeah, of course he would. The point that I'm trying to make is that he has a plan each and every day for everything that he does. Now, a lot of times when I'm dealing with a veteran sales rep, how many people would consider themselves to be a veteran sales rep? Okay, almost everybody. Almost everybody. Those of you that didn't raise your hands because you're too tired to raise your hands. Yeah. You have to remember that when we're working through our day, because we're overwhelmed with so much media coming at us from so many different directions, because of that, we have a tendency to get very frustrated. Especially when you're trying to sell a really good quality media, like radio, or like the information that you're serving on the internet, and you hear people say things like, well, we're pretty much going to do a lot of stuff on Facebook. We're going to do a lot more with Google. Well, we're kind of doing this. And you feel like you might be giving up. Here's the thing to remember. If you have a plan and you work that plan, let's just say that it's, I'm going to call 10 new prospects today, every day for 5 days in a row. Say that's your plan. And with each of those prospects, I'm going to leave a voicemail, because very rarely they pick up the phone anymore. I'm going to leave a voicemail to advance my marketing message. I'm going to send an email that's short and brief. We're going to talk about that in a second. Then within 24 hours, I'm going to call them back again. Then maybe I'm going to send a postcard to them that's handwritten. That's a novel concept, by the way. That's something that new media marketing directors are talking about. There's this thing it's called post office, and they're going to send post office to people. Yeah, it's a new concept in marketing. Makes me laugh every time I hear it. The thing to remember is, and please make note of this, no matter the age, no matter your tenure, the more advanced that you get in your career, the less likely it is for you to follow any type of plan. Very often, every day is run and gun and shoot from the hip. And what I've learned over the course of time, and many of you have as well, is when you have a plan of any kind, whether it's going to call 10 new people tomorrow, any plan is better than no plan at all. Did you make note of that? I'm not going to call you out. Some of you might fall asleep already. I'll jump around if you need me to. Remember, when it comes to successful sales, in any operation, radio or not, there's 4 important things. I hope you agree with me on this because I think it's right. First of all, you have to have a good product. Do you have a good product? The answer would be yes. Okay, do you have a good product? Yes. Is your price fair and competitive? I believe it is. I had the opportunity to work with some of you in this room to put together some of your pricing packages. I do believe you have a fantastic product, and I do believe that your price is fair and competitive. Now, this comes down, this is down for you. Do you have the right people on the bus? Jim Collins, maybe 5 years ago, wrote a book called Good to Great. And one of the premises is, do you have the right people on the bus? If you're a leader in your organization today, are you surrounded by the right people? Are you the right person? Do you have the right people on the bus? I mean, there are 6 words that you always have to fall back on. Do you know those 6 famous words? Anybody? Do you want fries with that? I mean, you do have a career. You do have a future. Okay. The last, though, is the most important. This is the piece of the puzzle, if you will, that's missing for so many people. And that's a process. When I go to work with a radio station or a TV station, and I sell a lot of TV. I sell a ton of television. And as I go in and work with people, the thing that I notice most often is that the plan or the process is off, or there's no process at all. Now, many times, salespeople will go through training, but when it comes to the day in and day out activities of your life, there's really not a pattern. There's really not a process. It would sort of be like if you said, I'm going to sign up for Gold's Gym, okay? And you walk in and all you do every day is bench press. Well, you are going to get some results, right? I mean, you're going to get some nice pectoral muscles. Your biceps might build a little bit. But what about the rest of your body? Is it going to be beneficial to you? Yes. Will you have some success? Yes. But better off is if you work with a trainer, right? But if you go in and have a complete workout plan, you have some process towards your goals. So you're going to work your legs a little bit. I don't really know this very well because I don't go to the gym that often. You work your legs a little bit, your arms a little bit, your back, you run, you do some cardio. There's a process. See, what we have to fight, and I fight this as well, even though I've not been selling as long as you, some of you, I have to fight it every day. Every day is not a good day in sales land. Would you agree? Every day is not necessarily a good day. So because of that, we have to have a process. We have to have a plan that we're going to work ourselves through. Because when you're not having such a great day, at least if you've got steps 1 through 5 to follow, the chances of you being successful are much, much better than if you walk in and you sit with your coffee cup and you go, oh my gosh, I really do need to make some calls today. I mean, has it ever been noon for you and you realize that you really haven't gotten anything done? And what's the one major distractor of your day? Besides like the station manager or something like that. Email. Email is the #1 business distraction. Email, and very often it comes in on your phone. We're going to talk about that in some pretty good detail. So this next thing I'd love you to make note of is you want to have a plan, and part of that plan is some type of process. You need to have a process on a daily basis, and don't let email drive your day. Now, when you are selling against other medias in your market, it's very important. All of us, I think, understand this, but very few of us actually take it to the next level as we're talking to an advertiser. When it comes to selling, whether it's radio, TV, selling your web properties, selling any of your audio delivery on your websites, whether it's selling events or sponsorships, confusion equals no. Do you buy things that you do not understand? Now, you would think to yourselves that radio is very easy for an advertiser to understand. You turn it on, you hear it, you go to the web, you click play, if you're on, you're doing podcasts, you download them, you would think that it's very simple for them to understand. But very often I've been on a sales call when you've been talking to somebody, you're talking and they're, that sounds great. Oh, you betcha, yeah, I really want that would be great. Or you're on the phone with them, man, that sounds like a great idea, what a good opportunity. And then you either never hear from them again, or as you send emails, you never get a reply back. And what I have found is 9 times out of 10, as we talk about our products and services, typically we don't do a good job educating that customer. We make too many assumptions that they get the media that we're selling. So what I like to do very often is say, does that make sense? Do you understand? Do you have any questions about that? What else can I do to help you understand? But here's another piece of the puzzle, though. A lot of trainers would stand up in front of you and say, never have a meeting with somebody that's not a decision maker. Have you heard that before? And my response to this in the back of the room is, boy, wouldn't that be nice? Because how many times have you actually, you guys, a lot of you are laughing, because that's the truth, right? See, it's very easy for somebody that gets paid money to stand in front of the room, especially if they don't sell anything. There's a lot of guys that do what I do, and ladies don't sell anything actively, and say, you know what you need to do? You need to work smarter, not harder. Well, this is what I found. Pretty much, you need to work harder in a lot of circumstances. And you do need to work smarter. But there's no little, cute little catchphrase that you're going to take back to your team and say, oh, this guy from South Carolina, said this cute little catchphrase. It's not going to fix what's happening in the media marketplace. Because what's happening is it's becoming more cluttered, and more cluttered. And we're getting shoved further and further down the list. And a lot of it is because, a lot of people are doing, they just don't understand accurately what we do. And we've been doing it so long, we don't adequately explain it. So very often, if you're dealing with a media buyer, and they're 23 years old, and they're from Minneapolis, and they've come to the moon, and they know everything. Do you ever deal with people like that? Okay, sometimes, no offense to anybody that's 23. Okay, no offense. Just happens to be, that seems to be the common demographic. The thing to remember is, when you're dealing with somebody that's in that millennial age group, okay, and some of you I can see in the room actually are, majority are not, okay? When you're dealing with people in the millennial age group, it's very difficult for them to admit, in most cases, I'm sure those of you that are in the room today are different, that they don't know. They've been handheld from day one. They've never lost anything in their lives. When they compete in soccer, everybody gets a prize. Their parents never spanked them. No offense if you don't spank your kids. I personally do. Worked out good for me. I can say that in this group. Okay? The thing to remember is that because they don't understand, they say that they do, and they think that they do, but because they don't accurately understand what it is that we're selling, it's imperative that we have good visuals to explain what we do. We'll talk about that further in a second. But also that we really take our time to understand that we are actually a painter. We are painting a picture for them. If you expect them to complete the painting and for it to look good, you're crazy. It's just not going to happen. It's important for you to understand that when it comes to selling media in today's landscape, confusion equals no. People don't buy what they don't understand. And when I'm hiring a new sales rep, you know what I'm hiring? I'm hiring somebody that's an educator, somebody that can talk to people, somebody that can explain concepts to people. I mean, do you like to be sold anything? I mean, how many people love the new car buying experience? I do, because I think it's kind of fun, but I'm wacky. I think it's fun to play with salespeople. I think I get a kick out of it. My wife, she's just like, just please go buy the car on your own. I really don't want to be there. It's just too much fun for you. For the most part, do you like to be sold anything? Do you think that most people enjoy when salespeople call on them? See, the reason most people like it when I call on them is because it's not a sales experience. It's an educational experience. It's a relationship building experience. I come to them with things that I've read maybe on Mashable.com or on Inc.com. It's not a sales experience. It's a resource experience to them. Now, as I look around the room, and we agreed in the beginning that relationships basically trump almost everything else. I think a bad idea can even be trumped by a relationship. I sold a program not that long ago. It was bad. It was actually just kind of a bad program. But people bought it because they liked me, and it did have some merit. But it actually wasn't that good of a program. But it proves the fact that people like me. I mean, what's the reason the majority of advertisers surveyed, okay, the majority of advertisers surveyed by the National Association of Broadcasting Television, what's the number one reason they buy from reps? Because they like the TV station? They like them. Yeah, they like the rep. Do you find that hard to believe? You shouldn't, because it's the truth. All right, next. Well, as we're talking with advertisers in this ever-cluttered space, we want to keep it as simple as possible. Everything we do, every voicemail needs to be simple, every email needs to be simple. I'm going to show you in a second why most of your emails don't get returned when it comes to sales if you don't know the person, especially for new prospects. Remember something. You think in your mind that what you're selling is simple. Many people see it not the same way. You've got to keep it simple. Now, this can be applied to any of your stations, any of your programs. This is a data sheet that I use on a regular basis. This is just an example. And when I'm talking with somebody on the phone, how many people can sell in person? You see the people face to face. Very few. Most of you are, well, just so we're accurate today, raise your hand, please, if you don't see people face to face. You mostly do it on the phone. You see people face to face? A lot of you on the phone and don't see them face to face? There's only 2 people raise their hand in the back. Let's try again, class. I know it's early. Stretch out. How many people get to see their customers face to face? Okay, so that's the great majority. Good. All right. Even if you don't, this still applies. What I have found is that in this confusing space that we live in, I need to have very compelling visuals as I'm trying to explain what it is that I'm selling. Now, let me explain this in very, very great detail to you. This is how important I think that it is. This is called a data sheet. Did you know that 86% of people are visual learners? Do you find that hard to believe? No, you shouldn't. Okay, 86%. How many people are visual learners? Okay, the majority of us. 86% of people are visual learners, and we retain 80% of what we see. So most salespeople do what? Talk. So because most salespeople talk, the level of retention of most advertisers is actually pretty low. Now you might say, but Ryan, I have great lead behinds. I would challenge you to ask, do your lead behinds look like this? What about this is reminiscent of your past? Whether you were born in 49, 59, or 89, in the room, say, what about this is reminiscent of your past? I'll let you think about that for a second. What of that sheet is reminiscent of your childhood? Do you remember your first grade teacher? What was it about those years of your life? So you learned more between first grade and 5th grade than any other time in your life, according to big educators. What about that page is reminiscent of your past? Visuals, pictures. How did you first learn? You first learned by a lot of repetition. You learned with a lot of pictures. And you learn complex things in simple ways. So when I'm trying to sell my demographic, as you're trying to sell your demographic, do you think that it's odd in this circumstance? This just happens to be for a magazine. In this circumstance, we included in this data sheet an African-American family. Well, this is in Dallas, which has got a fairly high African-American and Latino community. Wouldn't you think that was obvious? We were talking with an advertiser, and the advertiser said, oh, I didn't realize that African Americans write that magazine. As if they can't read, as if we can't read, as if this family here can't read. It seemed ludicrous to me, but this was an advertiser that was expected to spend $300,000 or $400,000 with this media outlet. What we're doing here is we're focusing in on audience size as well. We are read by 35,000 affluent Dallas homeowners each month. That's more people than you could fit in the front stretch at Texas Motor Speedway. Now, why is it important for us to be able to show a visual? Whether it's magazines or radio or television, we all deal in numbers. So we're talking about our audience, we're talking about the demographic of who they are, but we also talk a lot about numbers. Are numbers meaningful to people? You would think they would be, but typically they're not, except for the price, of course. Then that's always meaningful, right? When it comes to the size of the audience that you're selling or the program you're selling, it's important to understand that if you say 20,000, someone might say to themselves, okay, that's a lot of people. But they don't actually understand how many people that is. I've actually done these one-sheets, these data sheets for, I don't want to exaggerate, even though my mother claims that that's the only way that I talk. But this one sheet has been used literally hundreds of times by media outlets. I've literally sat on sales calls and had someone say, oh, wow, that's a lot of people. I told you 20,000. I told you 35,000. They see the picture and they go, oh, that's a lot of people. So here's the thing to remember. Advertisers are dumb. No. Advertisers are wonderful people. The thing to remember a lot of times is this little saying that we say in the South. It's bless your heart. That's not a term of endearment, by the way. When someone says, oh, bless your heart. It took me about 5 or 6 years to realize that when I moved to South Carolina. When it comes to visuals, it's important as we're talking to people, talking about what we're doing, you cannot underestimate that people don't accurately understand your audience, especially for what you guys and gals are trying to sell in this room today. You might say to yourself, and I'm being very generic, I know there's more than farmers. I'm being a little generic for the cause here. You might say farmers, you might say 15,000. Do they know the age of the farmers? Do they think that all farmers are old? I mean, as I explained to you when I was in Ulen, Minnesota, and driving these high-tech combines, or riding in these high-tech combines, the people that I was dealing with, the main farmer was my age. He's got his children that are driving. The audience is not just an old farmer in a pair of overalls. It's a very bad misconception. What can you do besides talking to dispel that myth? Use visuals. See, the thing that's interesting to me is, A, the number of people that don't think that rural America is connected. That is completely and utterly wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. My mother stalks me on Facebook. She's connected, and she lives in rural America. It did change my outlook on life a little bit, and the way that I handle myself when my mother got on Facebook. The other big misconception is that the group that we're dealing with is old. The group that we're dealing with is not big buyers of anything other than large equipment. And a lot of the things we can do as we roll forward is focus in on using visuals to explain who our total audience is, and then no more than 10 data points. What's the secret behind 10 data points? What I have found is when you're dealing with an advertiser, they can only consume so much data. 10 seems to be about the limit. 10 pieces of data. Anytime we've done more than 10, it's gone off the train. The train has gone off the tracks. Okay? Now, next, when we talk about pricing plans and how you're pricing the radio that you have, the website that you have, any of your other properties, events, sponsorships, etc., it's important to remember that everything is a bundle. And bundling is not a new concept. I'm going on 17 years of marriage. Okay? It was a bundle deal. I didn't realize exactly what I was getting in the bundle. I do love my mother-in-law on Fridays. I do love her. It's a bundle package. How many people are married? Okay? It's a bundle deal, isn't it? How many people have been to McDonald's in the last year? Okay? So when you walk into McDonald's and you see the value menu, does number 1 on the value menu actually save you any money? How about number 2, 3, 4, or 5? Do the value meals at McDonald's actually save a consumer money? Have you ever added it up? Not one penny. Not one penny. Sit down for just as a joke or just to kill some time. Just add it up. What has McDonald's done? What did they do in, I think it was 1989? What did they do? They made Happy Meals for Happy Days, right? Yeah. What did they do? They just made it easier for you to buy. They actually are not giving you any more value. They just made it easier for you to buy. How much did McDonald's revenue grow? Over 500%. So, if you could grow your revenue 500%, okay, well that might be a little much. But just remember something. Everything is a bundle. Have you ever tried to turn a phone on in your home recently? And you just want the phone to go ring, ring? They don't have a package for that. They don't have a bundle for that. You don't want voicemail? No. I just want the phone to ring. What if you're not there? I just want it to ring. I just want the phone to ring. I actually called and said, I am making outbound sales calls. I don't need incoming calls. So I don't need voicemail, email. I don't need all that. I just need a phone that I can pick up and zzz, I can press it down. She said, we don't have a bundle for that. I had to actually buy a package. I have caller ID, don't use it. I have voicemail, don't use it. I just wanted a stinking phone. Everything's a bundle. And that's why when we talk about concepts of creating packages, again, what's the driving force behind this graphic? Is the driving force behind that graphic the information that's on it? Or is it the fact that it's a visual? It helps people visualize what it is that they're going to buy from us. So let's walk through this in some detail. So let's just say, for example, we're going to sell to, let's just to be broad, Bobcat Okay, the local Bobcat deal with the platinum package. Okay? Now keep in mind, don't get lost in the details here, okay? Because you'll have to morph this or create it for your particular offerings. The platinum package is going to include X number of spots we have here. Let's just say a morning and afternoon drive. Then you're going to include them in one of your e-newsletters. Then you're going to give them a banner ad on the website. Then potentially what you're going to do is you're going to send out a message on your Facebook feed. And the total price is going to be $2,000, and that saves you $900. So what's behind the success of using this power pricing grid that I use in markets large and small, radio, TV, magazine, newspapers? What's the secret behind this? The secret is total savings, but the big secret is visual. It's a visual. Because the one thing you remember is, in your mind, it's just a radio spot, or it's just a sponsorship, or it's just a booth at an event. It's not. It's so much more than that to an advertiser. Oh my gosh, what am I going to put in the ad? Who am I going to have do this? Who's going to do the production? What about the music? Should I have rock music or country music or no music? So you have to remember, to all of us that have been doing this a long time, oh, it's just a radio ad. Or it's just a sponsorship of an event. Oh my gosh, what's going to be at the event? What's the size of the booth? Who's going to be there? What am I going to have in the booth? I mean, this is consternation at a level of DEFCON high for a lot of advertisers. Big time decisions. And so many of us, when we're selling, I mean, it's just a sponsorship. It's just a banner. It's just a mention in one of the programs. Or it's just a spot in one of our broadcasts. It's not just that. It's not in any way, shape, or form that's only to you because you've been doing it so long. The thing to remember is this visual of pricing and packaging helps people accurately understand exactly what it is that I am going to get. Now, how do you design it for success? You always design it towards the middle. You typically want to design towards the middle package, whatever it is. Now, do ad agencies like this concept? No, because ad agencies just operate in a little bit different world than the rest. But not all of them dislike it to their boss. In an effort to do that, you have to give them visuals and simple information because they have to do your job and sell their boss. Does that single point make sense to most of you? And the reason behind this whole concept is you've been doing this for how many years? Some of you more than 20, perhaps? Okay? So it's easy for you to talk about it. Remember, you're asking a marketing director to take your message into a cluttered environment. So that boss of the marketing director is hearing something from a local social media person, then they're hearing it from their kids. Then somebody said, why are we not advertising on Google? Somebody said, oh yeah, but I love running ads in the newspaper. Well, what about this other radio station? What about being on this TV program? So you are in the midst of that media mess. What do you do to be different? Remember something. Most sales reps are going to go in with a media kit of some kind, some type of handout, and typically it's going to be some type of MS Word file that's written out. That's the way most of it happens. Not many visuals, not many concrete plans, not many packages, and they definitely haven't gone to the extent to really make sure that they accurately show what their audience looks like. See, I really truly think that this is one of the keys, and one of the keys to a lot of your problems is that you're talking about your products, but advertisers, especially those that are young, don't accurately understand who your audience is. They just don't get it. They don't accurately understand. Well, use something from first grade. Use visuals to help drive them forward. Now, let me pause for a second, okay? Because we have time to talk about it. What questions do you have about that? Or what are your thoughts about it? And if you're doing it currently for your program or your market, how's it working for you? Anybody? Is anybody using this type of concept right now?
We do a little bit. There's always the top one that you never expect them to buy.
That's right.
There's always the bottom one that's bare bones, and they always see the fall of it.
Correct. Correct. Now let me ask you this. I'm going to pick on you. What's your first name?
Bart.
Bart. Bart, how long have you been selling? 20 years? That's good. Do you still enjoy it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's important. That's important. When it comes to a visual like this, would that potentially help you?
Absolutely.
Okay? So now let me ask you this. This may be a harder question. What would stop you from doing that? Be honest. Be honest.
Lazy.
Okay. All right. All right. Who else is as honest as Bart today? You're lazy as well. Good for raising your hand. I'm kidding.
I guess trying to fit, kind of emulate that to match it for what I do, because I have a small A&M station in a very small market, and for some of these things, I'm always concerned that it's going to be over their head, because some of the, I have clients that they don't even know what Facebook is.
Sure.
And they don't know, and so to try, my concern is always going to control too much. They get overwhelmed pretty quick.
Sure. And so what I like to do is, there are some customers that I might have advanced package concepts, and there's others that I might still use visuals, but I might scale it down to say this much.
I know what you're
Knowing that I'm going to go into a small boutique or something like that, knowing that I'm not going to have this high level of receptivity as I might have with others, and I might have two of them, so that I basically don't blow their mind. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And so a lot of times, now for example, I might have a package, and this is a little bit off of what a lot of you do, but just so you understand. I might have a package for restaurants. I might have a package for boutique owners. I might have one for rural equipment dealers. I might have another package set up. And you might say, well, don't they all talk? Don't they all talk? Well, some of them do. But for the most part, I have package concepts that I want to share with them, A, for understanding, and B, because a lot of times I just really need, overall, I need them to understand what they're getting. Here's a couple things, other things to point out. If you have questions, raise your hand. I have to answer them. Is this right here, total savings. And why is total savings so important? Everybody loves a deal, right? Everybody wants to get a deal, okay? I mean, how many times do people pay full price? Does it happen every day to you? Hasn't happened to me in a long time. Because everybody wants a deal, right?
How many times do you take that presentation in without having spent time visiting with the customer, developing that relationship and finding out all what their needs are?
Yeah, so what I do when I'm on a call with somebody is I have what I refer to as my 10 critical questions. Okay, and I don't get through all 10 every time. But when I'm building a relationship with someone, that's pretty quickly, depending on who you are and the reputation of your station. I don't come right out of the gates with this as the first thing out of my equipment. What I'll do is I'll begin to, I'm going to observe the environment. I'm going to talk with them, but I don't usually spend, weeks and months developing the relationship before they buy. I try to get things in front of them for them to consider pretty quickly. But I agree with you. I try to ask questions, sort of do a miniature needs assessment, with them. And then we'll go into this. But in a lot of cases, most of the time there's something that's going to fit. Most of the time. The one thing to remember is very rarely do advertisers require customized proposals. See, a lot of salespeople spend a lot of time doing customized presentations, and in the end, very rarely will an advertiser come back and say, I bought from you because your proposal is so customized to me. Typically it is, well, what was the price on it, and what am I getting for my money? In most cases. I recently worked on Monday and Tuesday this week. I was in Minneapolis, St. Paul, working with a couple of media groups there. And this one lady, she actually does like 9 to 12 page proposals. And she does them all from scratch every time. And you know what my response, my mind, you know what I was saying, right? Bless your heart. But I thought, why do you do that? Why do you, what? For those of you that joined us late, bless your heart, it's not a term of endearment. I just thought, why do you keep doing that? When most of the time these people want to get you out of their office anyway, for the most part, and you're just not making it easy on yourself or on the advertiser. All right? Now, I would challenge you to consider this as you go home. Today's the last day, right? Today's the last day. So in a concert, you've got all these people, and you've got the headliner. So I'm the last guy? That's awesome. That's why they gave you that big room. That's great. Now, remember, overall, though, if nothing else from this class is, visuals will help drive your success. Because very often, salespeople just talk too much. Did you know that good sales reps only talk 30% of the time? Okay, and that's according to Chet Holmes, who actually recently passed away. He's the author of the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. Have you read that book? Okay. Now, some of you are like, no, that's fine. I didn't read the whole book. I read the Cliff Notes version. It was called The Ultimate Sales Machine Condensed or something. You can buy it for $9.99 on Amazon. Okay. And one of the things that he said in his 12 Keys to Success, and he's by far one of the biggest business authors in the sales space of all time, is he said, you've got to use visuals. You've got to use visuals. So I'd ask yourself, just think for a second, what stops you from developing it? What stops you from moving forward? Now, some of you might say, well, my companies won't do that for me. Well, a lot of these things I'll build in PowerPoint, I'll do on my own. You could probably get your niece or nephew to design that for you. All right? Now, any questions on before we move on? It's so important, I don't want to move on before we... Okay? All right. Now, rocking forward. Many times, now I don't think this is the case in this group, many times as I'm traveling across the country and teaching and coaching, I deal with a lot of younger salespeople that they've gotten into a bad habit of doing nothing but emailing and using email as their reach-out strategy. Now, I don't want to call anybody out because in this room, maybe there are a lot of you that continue to do that. But what I have found in working with serious media sales reps is this. When you combine effective voicemails, effective phone calls, with effective emails, which we're going to talk about now, your rate of response goes up 20 to 25%. So you can't do all emails, and you can't do all phone calls. There's got to be a gentle blend of the two. So very often, though, in today's space, because we're trying to work smarter and not harder, then people are like, well, isn't it smarter for me to send out 50 emails than to make 50 phone calls? And my response is pretty emphatic about this. No, that's not the case. All right? And I can say that as a guy that sells all the time, just like you. So let's talk about voicemail and email strategies. Now, this is what the majority of people that have an iPhone, which, by the way, the Galaxy S2 or something last month outsold the iPhone, so that's a little interesting. This is what the iPhone main screen looks like when you pull it up and people are looking at their email. And the BlackBerry will be something similar. Most phones are something similar. So let's look at this for a second because it's so important for you to understand how your emails are being seen. So what do we see on this? So let's just look at one here. This is from Deanna Bruce. Okay? And this is the subject line. It's here. So we have how many words in most cases? Okay, we have how many words in the subject line to get our point across? 4 to 5, correct? Are you with me? 4 to 5.
Yes.
Now, what do most people do with their phone? Do they actually read email when their email comes in? What are they typically doing with their phone? They're scanning and deleting. Why are they deleting email? Why are you different? You're not. Why are they deleting the email? What are they doing with that email? Or what are they doing with the phone? They're trying to reduce the amount of email they have to answer when they get back to their office. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay, so why are you writing Moby Dick style emails, meaning long, long, long emails, sending these to these mobile devices, and you think for a second, because the first sentence you have exactly, count it with me, class, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You have 14 words. You got 14 words. They're going to make a decision whether they're going to delete you or not, unless they have a relationship with you of some kind. You have 14 words. Now, as professional salespeople, using Bart as an example, 20-some years, let's all wonder and ask Bart, could Bart say anything in 14 words? Really? 14 words?
No way.
There you go. You know well. You know well. So the thing to remember is, your subject lines are more important than ever before when you send out an email. The first sentence, the first 14 words. You have 14 words that are make a decision to delete you. This is the main reason, if you don't have a relationship, that most of the time, what happens? Your email is deleted. Yet most people never take the time to look at this kind of thought and say, all right, what am I going to do in my first couple words? Because you might have a pleasantry. It might say, hi, Bob. It might say, you just have to think about this. What are you going to do to make sure that your voicemails and emails are actually getting through? The first sentence is critical. The subject line is critical. I mean, if it's the same old subject line that you've always sent, is it going to get deleted? It's highly likely. What type of subject lines don't get deleted? New ideas, fresh ideas, money-making ideas, naked people. I mean, don't do that. Don't include me. I mean, unless it works for you. Then call me and let me know how the naked sales message works for you. Remember something. Every email and every voicemail is important to your overall sales process and your sales plan. Yet what's the one thing that most people don't think about in writing an email? The subject line. Most of the time they just don't, because they think it's a throwaway. It's really not that important. How many times have you been searching for something in your email and you can't find it, and you just wish the subject line had been more pertinent to the email that was actually sent, How many people actually get emails from people where the whole email is in the subject line? You've seen that? That happens. It happens a lot. A lot. So I'm here today to tell you, some of you that don't know how to use your email, and you actually put the entire email in the subject line, that would be incorrect to do that. Now, let me just ask, have you stopped and have you thought about the inbound email that's going to a potential advertiser, that they're looking at it on their phone, getting ready to delete it, and thought about it in that great detail? Let's stop for 10 seconds. Some of you were already in pain. 10 seconds. Good. That's more, that 10 seconds is more than a lot of you spent realizing this is how it's going to look on somebody's BlackBerry or iPhone device. As you're trying to get through the clutter, if you don't change the way that you do it, someone else is going to do it. Someone else is going to outsell you, and that's why it's so important for you to pay attention. Now, let's talk about these emails, and let's talk about the voicemails and the patterns. Okay. All right. Let's just say that this is perhaps the email and the voicemail that you left. Hi, John. I'm looking for some product and marketing information on Toro. John, I'm going to send you an email about this right now. So this is a voicemail. This is Ryan from Core Media, 877-505-1212. Less than 30 seconds, short, simple, to the point. Let me explain to you how the voicemail idea works. You're sitting at your desk, okay, at the station or at home, and you're listening to a voicemail. You typically listen to it on speaker, and what do you almost always do? Where's your finger? On the delete key. Do you think you're alone? You are not alone. So as an advertiser is sitting there, and they're at their phone, and your voicemail comes in, what are they doing? They are waiting for a what? An opportunity to delete you. They're not waiting for an opportunity to love you, people. They're not waiting, oh my gosh, thank you, Bart. I can't believe you called today. I just wanted to buy an ad from you. When I got up this morning, the first thing I thought of was, well, Bart's going to call me today. I sure hope he does, because I need to buy an ad. I need to buy a sponsored package from Bart today. Now, I can clearly tell Bart's a nice guy, a likable guy, and I'm sure that if you ask his customers, they buy from Bart because they like his products and they like him as a person. But thinking about the average habits of the normal advertiser, they're not waking up in the morning going, man, I really just hope that Howard calls today because I need to buy an ad. Okay? No, maybe it does. You just never know. But remember something. Every 1.5 seconds is a point of delete. Think about yourself. So every 1.5 seconds. So where are we at in this voicemail? 1.5 seconds. You get to about here. So from a strategy perspective, what's something that most people don't delete? Their name. So when you say their name, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be deleting. So we did a project together where we actually reviewed voicemails that salespeople left for a company called Sage in Los Angeles, California. What we found is that 2 seconds max is all somebody will give you between these points of delete. So here's the beginning of the voicemail. You ready? Okay. Hi, John. I'm looking. Boom. That point. Are they good so far? Probably. Yes, because most people won't delete their name. What's the second thing that most people won't typically delete? Business people. A great idea. Most people won't delete a good idea. So, hi, John. I'm looking for some product and marketing information. At this point, okay, we're probably still good because they're maybe asking themselves, what are they calling about? Are they going to buy product or what is it? At that point, you're probably good. Then they're typically not going to delete the name of their own company. So this is our victory here that we're going to get through the whole voicemail. This is the touchdown right down here. So we got to Toro, we're pretty good. And then, John, I'm going to send you an email about this right now because you know that John probably isn't going to call you back, probably, in most cases. So right away, you've reassured him, okay, cool. So I actually don't have to listen to much more of this voicemail because you're going to email it to me. So that's good. And maybe by the time you got here, you're probably deleted by the time you got to your phone number because he's not going to call you back anyway. Now, most of you will leave a voicemail something like this. Hey, John, it's Ryan Dohrn calling from WPXR FM, and I wanted to chat with you real quickly about your 2013 marketing plans. You haven't got that all out. He's already deleted you, trust me. Unless you have a relationship with him. So it's important for you to realize that the name, rank, and serial number concepts, and the way so many of us were classically trained as a polite way to leave a voicemail, this is really going to rub the brain of someone. You have to see it in your faces. It's like, oh, I just can't not identify myself up front. It's almost unethical. I would challenge you to think about this. If you hope to advance your sales career to the next level, maybe you're good and you want to be great. Maybe you're great and you want to be a superstar. Starting out your voicemails with name, rank, and serial number, the chances of you being deleted are so unbelievably high. And what are voicemails? Voicemails are a chance for you to advance your marketing message, to become a known entity to these people. It's set in a sales class. Oh, it was terrible. I remember how many months ago it was. And the guy said, listen, never leave a voicemail, because people will never call you back anyway. And I'm like, man, that is a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to say the station's call letters. It's a missed opportunity to say the program's name. It's a missed opportunity for me to become a known entity. Why don't most advertisers that are new call you back? It's not surprising to me at all. They don't call you back because since birth, you've been taught by your mama, your grandmama, not to talk to strangers. I'm not surprised at all. If I get a call from somebody I don't know, the chance of me calling them back, unless it's like a razzle idea, I'm probably not calling them back. I'm not surprised the advertisers that are new don't call you back because they don't know who you are. Voicemail and a follow-up email that's equally as brief are a great opportunity for you to become a known entity and to get some calls back. So let's pause for a second. Could you, see, it's a hard habit to break. What are habits? Habits are easiest thing to make, hardest thing to break. So it's going to take you how many times to leave a different style of voicemail before you break that habit? I'm going to say for some of you it's going to take a week to do it. What if I told you that a no-good, for nothing, almost horrible salesperson that I personally know changed the way that he leaves voicemail, and he got 25 to 30% more advancement on his emails and his calls because he changed the way that he left voicemails? Would you try it? Okay, that's the truth. Now, I'm going to use a generic name so I don't embarrass the guy. This guy named Dave. Quite honestly, I don't know how Dave got his job. I'll be honest, I really don't know how he got his job. But he's a sales rep nonetheless for a pretty good-sized media company. And he's bad. He's just really, really bad. So he needs a lot of training. And he said, I could never do that. I could never make it happen. I said, Dave, just try it. Would you try it for 1 week? And he did, and he had fantastic results. But it goes against the grain, and it's something you may not be able to do. The next step, then, is what does the email look like? In my opinion, the email has got to be equally as simple. It's, hi, John, and I like this. I have a new idea to bring us a new customer to Lakeland Vets. John, I think you're really going to like this new idea. This is the voicemail, obviously. I'm going to send you an email about this right now as well. What does the email look like? Almost the exact same thing. It looks almost identical. You might include a little bit of information, but not a lot, because you do want to create some type of conversation. Now, when I send an email, I always ask a question. Like I'll say, can I send you a sample of that? Could I send you a link? Could I, I ask. The thing about email is this. Email is supposed to be informal communication, yet so many of us make it a formal communication. So what I like to do is I like to pretend that I'm actually on the phone. So I actually will back and forth. Yeah, that sounds great. Can I send you this? Question mark. And then, I get a reply back. But it's funny. Have you ever had emails go back and forth with somebody and you thought, why are we not just on the phone? Like literally they reply back, ding, ding, ding. Well, you also don't know what's going on. I mean, they might be in a meeting. They might be on a job interview. You don't know. You don't know what they're doing or where they are. But the thing to remember is you can actually create a conversation via email if you structure it correctly. Keep it short. Keep it simple. And remember something. When people are looking at it on their mobile phones, if you expect a reply, you only need to include one question. Now, so many, from an email strategy perspective, so many of us try to jam-pack an email with so much information because we feel like we only have one chance to make a first impression. Okay? Trust me, that is actually not true. I told you I was married 17 years. It was three meetings before my wife agreed that we were going to advance further in our relationship. I had 3 chances. The first one, I royally screwed up. The second one, I really, really screwed up. And the third one, she ran me over with a hay wagon. And, from that point, we're married for 1.5 years. That's a funny story. Did you not think that was funny? My wife ran me over with a hay wagon. She did, seriously. She did. She called me up after a horrible date. I actually said to my wife, I said, I'm going to take you out to dinner. She said, great. We're driving to the Quad Cities near Downport, Iowa. And I said, hey, where do you want to go to dinner? She said, how about Taco Bell? This tells you a little bit about my life, doesn't it? I said, well, I was thinking we might maybe do something a little bit nicer. She said, no, I'm a simple girl. Taco Bell is fine. And I said, okay, Taco Bell. And I thought, shoot, I mean, I was working at that time at WPXR, FM station, Rock Island, Illinois, and I had maybe $100 I'd taken out, which was all the money I had, by the way. Because I didn't know where she wanted to go, maybe Junior's or something. So we were at Taco Bell, and I thought, I'm going to add some romance to this night. This applies to radio, by the way. I'm going to add some romance to this night. So I took her down to the Mississippi River. And we got off the Taco Bell and read, and I thought, this might work out. I might get some points here, some props for being, quite romantic. Until this homeless guy walked up and said, hey, can I have a taco? And then, so I tried to save it, and I said, can we go feed the ducks at the park? I bought some popcorn to feed the ducks. And she's like, well, okay, whatever, let's feed the ducks. So we're feeding the ducks, and literally one of the ducks started choking on the popcorn that I had supplied. So now I'm put her in front of a homeless guy, and I almost got her beat up. I killed a duck, and I almost insulted her about Taco Bell. And so the next day she called me. She said, hey, could you help my dad make some hay today? I thought, are you joking with me? Seriously? I said, oh, yeah, sure. I'd love to get up and help your dad make hay. And so we're making hay, and she threw the clutch out on the tractor, and whoop, ran me right over the hay wagon. And I stuck around, so from that point forward, I think that was good. She did ask me to get out of the radio business, though, because she said that when I blanked out my bank account with only $100 in it, she said, I'm going to need a little bit more than that. I'm looking for income potential. I'm looking for income potential. Brief, to the point, patterns of success. So, when I'm prospecting, okay, this is important to know. When I'm prospecting, I'm going to prospect 10 customers a day for 5 days. So I do that every week, and I prospect those 10 every day, so that's 50. So I prospect 50 people at a time. If you're not prospecting 50 at a time, there are 50 in your market, 50 at a time, you're probably not putting enough in your pipeline to make budget. So I try to do 10 a day. The other piece that I do, remember we talked about us not being random, is I try to make sure that I prospect at certain times of the day. So when things are bad that day, I try to make sure that between 10 and 12, that's when I'm doing my prospecting. That's when I'm leaving voicemails, sending follow-up emails. But I call it my big 50 list. So I have 50, I do 10 a day, and then I'll call them every other day over the course of a given period of time. And after a month, 3 to 4 weeks of calling them, if I don't get through, then typically I'll have someone else in the office call, or I'll pass the account to somebody else, because obviously what I'm doing is I'm doing something wrong, or they would call back. Either the offer's not good, the voicemail I'm leaving is not good, the price point's wrong, something's wrong. See, one of the things that makes me crazy is when people say, I've been working that account for 3.5 years, and they finally, they finally came through. And I'm thinking to myself, bless your heart. 3.5 years, really? Well, sometimes, it works out. All right, let's roll forward. It's all about us stopping our natural habits to be random. So I'd love you to make this note. Stop being random. See, very often you'll come into work, you'll grab a cup of coffee, you might turn on your computer, check your email, and then your day really goes into a tailspin from there. Email controls us every day. It's just a bad problem. But then, we might not prospect at the same time. We may go to lunch at the same time. We may drink the same amount of coffee, every day. But sometimes in the afternoon we're distracted by this, and then we're writing a proposal, and then we're having a meeting, and then we're calling. So our days are really all over the place. Well, when you look at an athlete, a highly trained athlete, last week I had the opportunity to have lunch with a woman, one of the first women in Minnesota that won the Ironman? Yeah, the Ironman. And I said, she's a salesperson also. And she said, I'm miserable when it comes to sales because I'm so undisciplined. I thought, you just ran the Ironman, one of the first women in Minnesota to win the Ironman against men in that category, and you can't sell. She said, it doesn't translate to my personal life. And the thing I said is, what can you take from your Ironman or Ironwoman training and translate it over? What do you do in the morning? Do you have a set time where you do certain things? Yes. Okay, that's the first thing we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do together is we're going to not have a random day. We're going to have a set day. I'm going to create what I call zones. Now, if any of you are leaders of a sales team, one of the things that I would encourage you to consider is a concept I refer to as team calling. Okay? It's well, if you're on the same coast, that would be very helpful. But it's that we're all going to prospect from 10 to 10:30. We're all going to make these calls together, because when do you lose the most weight when you're trying to lose weight? When you have an accountability partner with you. When do you gain the most muscle mass? When you have a trainer that's working with you. So if you can create an accountability partner to say, hey, would you double check with me that I prospected calls today? Many times people say, sure, absolutely, I'd be more than happy to do that for you. So I create these call zones. So I told her, I said, listen, Kim, what we want to do is we want to create call zones for you. Then, when you get in the morning, create your to-do list before you open your email. How many mornings has your day spiraled out of control once you open your email? It happens on a very regular basis. So I'm going to, before I open my email, I want to create my to-do list. Then I'm going to open the nemesis that we all know as Microsoft Outlook and open it up and let it create control my day. Okay? Then, though, when I'm making calls, okay, so I'm saying I'm going to make my prospecting calls from 10 to 11. What I'm going to do during that period of time is I'm actually then going to shut my email off, or I'm going to shut off that chime. Do you have that on your computer? It pops up in your face. See, I shut that off because people pay me for advice. So if I'm on the phone, let's say we're talking together on the phone, and you hear ding, and I'm in the mid-sentence. Do you know how many times I've been on the phone with somebody? They're in mid-sentence, I hear that ding, and then they're talking, and what they say is kind of off. It's weird because they're trying to read and talk at the same time. Most people can't do that. So I'll have to shut that off. Now in the afternoon, I want to set a prospecting time. I want to make sure that I set meeting times. When am I typically going to have most of my meetings? Maybe it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't know for you. But I break down my day into call zones and appointment zones, and I zone out my day. And the reason that that's so important is because when you have a bad day, which happens, you just keep to your plan. You stick to your plan. Because let's just say you woke up in the morning and you got in trouble for doing something. This happens to me all the time. Doing something I normally do, which I didn't realize that I did because I'm a guy and I'm supposed to be a mind reader. You know, that's how it works in my house. You know, I didn't realize I was supposed to be so smart. And so I messed up my day, so I get to work and my day is all off. My day is just messed up. So, but I have a plan and I stick to my plan every day. And I have found it to make me very, very successful. I stick to my plan. I also then, in Outlook, block out times to do specific things. So if I need to write proposals, I block out a time on Outlook on my calendar to do it, and I don't let anything else happen in that period of time. All right? So it's all about not being random. What in life is random that works out? Can you think of things that you can think of for a second? What in life is random, completely random, that actually works out? Now, randomness is different than spontaneity. Spontaneity would be like, hey, honey, let's go out on a date night. You know, that's being spontaneous. Randomness is, I just happen to roll down the road, just happen to drop in on an advertiser. I mean, it doesn't typically work out in most cases. So I just want to challenge you to think about this. Randomness typically doesn't work for salespeople because our brains are all over the place. And the older we get, our brains become less all over the place. We forget a lot more things. That happens to me too. We have to make sure that we're a lot more compartmentalized, a lot more disciplined. As we get older, we have to be more disciplined if we want to get more things done. All right? The big thing is this. A really big thing is this. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, it's the typical example of, okay, it is what it is, right? So many people try to redefine insanity. It's like, it is what it is. It really is. So you can't keep doing the exact same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So if your life is random, you're typically not going to be as successful. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and add randomness to it, then you're really going to have a very, very difficult time. I think at this point on the screen in front of you now is something that I hope that everybody will embrace from a very big point today. Jerry Acuff, A-C-U-F-F, I think. Jerry Acuff wrote a book called The Relationship Edge, A-C-U-F-F. I didn't see you write that down. Surprising to me because did you know, well, no, it's not actually, because something like 80% of salespeople never read a business book on a regular basis. Jerry Acuff, The Relationship Edge. For Christmas, ask for it for Christmas. The Relationship Edge, Jerry Acuff. Read the book. And I think it's really important for you to always keep growing. I think that we made mention of that this morning. Thank you. Appreciate that. And the reason I think it's really important is because for those of you that are younger in the room today, in my opinion, relationships will absolutely trump everything in your sales life. Everything. And that's why it's so important. What are some of the things that Jerry says in the book that I found to be very, very revealing? One, People buy from you, they buy you, and they typically don't buy your product. 2, people will often spend more money because they believe in you or they believe in your brand. Next, people will always give more time to people that they don't know. Next, a referral of business is one of the best ways to get in the door. Do you have a referral program that you've already set up in place? Okay. So relationships, because they're everything, it's an opportunity as an old sales dog to really beat the youngster in the marketplace, because what are all the people in your marketplace, these youngsters being trained to do? They're being trained to be hunters. Go out, kill it, bring it back. Because that's what these larger media companies want. They want really fast results. The problem with that is, without the relationship edge to it, you're missing out on long-term renewals, long-term relationships, long-term deals, long-term buys. It's like one-hit wonders, and that's what we don't want. I encourage you to read that book and check it out. Now, I'm going to take this a little time. I want you to take a second and understand that a lot of salespeople think that LinkedIn is a waste of time because you have it set up wrong. Okay? But I want to encourage you to consider is the reason that I like LinkedIn and I use LinkedIn. 2 things for you to write down. 1, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is complete. The more complete your LinkedIn profile is, the more that is unlocked for you. Okay? So when you're in LinkedIn, you look up somebody in your local marketplace or national marketplace, what am I looking for? I'm looking for alumni relationships. I'm looking for hobbies and interests. I'm looking for past employers. I'm looking for anything that I can do to be able to create some type of virtual connection with them. A good example, there's a woman, and I've asked for permission to share her example. There's a woman that I was trying to sell to. Her name is Pam, and she happened to be a University of Alabama football fan. I happen to be a South Carolina Gamecocks fan. Well, there's an interesting synergy there, if you will, in terms of us both appreciating SEC football. I learned about that on LinkedIn, and so when I was able to leave her a voicemail, I referenced the fact that I said, hey, good luck to Alabama this weekend. I hope that they beat, I forget what it was. Maybe it was Florida. Good luck to Alabama. Hope to beat Florida this weekend because we'd like to see you guys in the SEC championships or whatever it was. For whatever reason, that resonated with her. And she called me back. Now, I would not have had that information other than I saw her alumni connection on LinkedIn. Let me give you another example. I was working with somebody, and I saw on their LinkedIn profile that they were, I don't know if they were retired from the Marines or they had been an active duty in the Marines. When I left a voicemail for the person, I thanked them for their service and also mentioned that my brother-in-law was a first recon Marine, still currently at Pendleton, Camp Pendleton in California. Left, got a call back just like that. Really, what's your name? I learned about that on LinkedIn. Now, I'm not trying to be swarming, I'm not trying to be creepy, I'm not trying to be weird. I'm trying to use the technology that's at my disposal to be able to learn more about people so I can create faster and better connections with them. But on LinkedIn, most of you do not have a complete profile. So if you go on LinkedIn, you look on the right side of the screen, you'll see how complete your profile is. You won't get a lot of information on people until your profile is complete. The other piece is you want to complete your history in LinkedIn. We do a whole class on LinkedIn. You want to make sure you complete your work history because I might be connected to you, you might be connected to Gary, you might be connected to Bart, and I can use that virtual line to be able to get to Bart in some capacity with a question, even if I don't have his email address. So LinkedIn is very, very beneficial. If you've not had an opportunity to get on and to use it, I would really encourage you to think about it. And then if you really don't understand it, reach out to me via email. We'll trade cards later. I'll send you a video on how you can use LinkedIn better. Now, a secret on Google for you to find anybody's email address. Okay? With most companies, there's only a few setups for someone's name. Like it's going to be ryan.dohrn@morris.com. Or it's going to be rdohrn@morris.com. Okay, does everybody understand what I mean? With most email addresses, like it's going to be Gary.Cooper@Southeast or G. Cooper, or whatever it is, right? So on Google, with a little search box, if you hope that you know their email address, put it in quotes in Google. Okay, put it in quotes, because that's going to give you a specific result. Type in what you think it is in quotes and hit search. And it will return to you any time that email address has ever been seen on the internet. If you don't get a result, then maybe, just using Gary as an example, Then if it's not Gary.Cooper, then maybe I do G. Cooper and leave it in quotes. Eventually, I'm going to find, as long as I know his .com name, so let's just say that I'm trying to get hold of somebody at Ulen Equipment Dealer. And I know that Ulen, U-E-L-E-N or U-L-E-N, and their website is ulenequipment.com. And I'm trying to get through to Bob Jones. I'm going to put in quotes bob.jones at ulenequipment.com, see results pop up. If I don't get it there, then I might do B. Jones, or maybe I'll do Jones B. But eventually, because almost everybody's email address runs through their main.com name, eventually I'm going to come across whatever their email address is. Then also, most of the time, it's going to pull up their phone number as well. See, the thing about it is, because of your Facebook profiles, your LinkedIn profiles, the stuff that you did in MySpace years ago, eventually you're probably going to find someone's email address. You've used their email address. Someone has used their email address on the web in some capacity. But the secret is put it in quotes. Okay? So if you ever feel like I don't have that person's email address, use LinkedIn and Google to learn and use it to connect. Maybe it's a class for next year here at the conference to really get deep and understand LinkedIn. I would stand before you today as a professional salesperson and say that LinkedIn accounts for, I want to be conservative, I would say that LinkedIn accounts for greater than 30% of the good information that I know about my customers. Greater than 30%. And I gave you two really good examples that turn into, one was maybe a $20,000 contract and one was maybe a $10,000 contract. Now maybe that's not a lot to you, that's a lot to me. But I really feel that LinkedIn and Google are a great resource for salespeople. Okay? All right, now, it's really important for us to set aside time as old sales dogs to keep up. I'm aware of the time. Did I tell you my dad was a preacher? I told that earlier, right? Do you know what it means when a preacher takes his watch off? Absolutely nothing. That's right. I've learned from the best. I'll keep it simple. In terms of being an old sales dog or new people that are in the room, I want to share with you that I really think it's important for us to set a little time aside on a weekly basis to keep up. And so what are some websites that I go to learn? And I'd love for you to write them down. We can trade cards and I'll share them. The reason I go to Inc.com is because I find that a lot of progressive new information is on Inc.com, and it gives me a real good understanding. Mashable is a website that's all about social media. And so as a salesperson, I want to be armed and have good, really concrete knowledge of social media. Seth Godin is a marketing guru. And I like to go to Seth's website because his blog posts are short and simple and to the point. It really keeps me up on what's going on. You come to my 360 Ad Sales website, and I write sales blogs on time management and things like that. The reason I encourage you to think about, as veteran sales reps, setting time aside is because, as I think that you stated this morning before we began, is the moment you stop learning and yearning to learn is the moment you stop growing. And eventually you stop growing, then what happens? Then your plant dies off. Yeah, then the plant dies off. So it's so important for us to make sure that we accurately understand this simple fact today, that we have to be looking for new pieces of information. Constantly learning. Now, can you waste a ton of time on the internet? Oh, yeah. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems with the internet. It's a huge time waster. But make sure that you set time aside to keep up. All right? Now, what I want to do is we talked today about a bunch of different things. And so this is not a sales pitch. What I want to do is I'd love to send you my 10 critical questions. I'd love to send you 50 revenue ideas. I'll make this promise. I'll send it to you promptly. My cards are here. You can exchange those cards. Before I do that, I want you to do one last thing for me. I want you to just go to the bottom of your page or go to a separate page. We've talked about a lot of concepts today, a lot of things. I'd like you to write down one thing from a workshop today. One thing that you are willing next week to give a try. Maybe it's leaving a different voicemail than the name right there. One thing, let's give everybody a second, and then I'd love for two people to share, and then we'll be done. One thing that you're willing to give a try to next week that we talked about today. I'll give you just 20 seconds to write it down. Okay, anybody want to share? Just two people. Yes, sir.
To redo my packages at visual aids.
Great. Excellent. And if everybody wants a copy of that package, leave me your card and I'll send it to you. It's no problem. Okay, one other person wanted to share what they wrote down.
Given the fact that I love it when you hear a message that you can relate to. I'm going to LinkedIn.com yet today and work on that because I couldn't do more than that to relation.
Good.
Figuring out a way better to do that.
Love it. Love it. Anybody else willing to share? Yes.
Better crafted emails.
Good. Good. That's great. Does everybody feel like they got one thing that you walk away with? Okay. Okay. Good. And remember, if you want that stuff I promised, just please grab one of my cards. I'll be happy to send it to you, and I promise not to spam you. Other than that, thank you for allowing me to be here today. I look forward to chatting with you more at 1:30. So.